Give me the final little button. I see your little face. Okay, so it looks like we are live. That's awesome. We did it once again. We got to have tech troubles every other week. Otherwise, it just wouldn't be a show and we wouldn't know what to do with ourselves. So, hey, everybody. Welcome to Third Eye Salon. Whether it is your first time or if you are one of our repeat offenders, we love having you here. Thank you so much. On Third Eye Salon, we take a fresh look between the veils of reality. And today we are taking a fresh look between the veils of disclosure and how that's going to come about and how the Star Nations are working to make that happen, specifically with a couple of beings known as Ort and D, a couple of Arcturians that we're going to get to know better today. So let's go ahead and see who's in the salon. So there's my buddy, Linda, psychic and conscious business coach. How are you, Linda?
I am fabulous this morning. I'm so excited to be talking to Kevin and having you all join us. This is so much fun for me.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. And thank you for getting all of our tech working today. We appreciate you so much. And then our buddy, Jillian, OBE, ET, and Spirit Experiencer, experience of all types of things that are just out there. How are you doing, Jillian?
I'm doing good. I've been so excited to talk to Kevin. I came across Kevin last year in some interviews and just thought he was so fun to listen to.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be a great show. I feel like we're just going to call Kevin Uncle Kevin at this point because he just feels so like open-hearted, friendly, and warm. So, hey, Kevin, thank you for being on Third Eye Salon. We're excited you're here, obviously.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me. I do appreciate it. And I've been looking forward to it. And thank you for those kind words, Gillian and Linda. I do appreciate it. So, and again, thank you for inviting me on your show. I need to get my message out to people. That's what my ET guys have asked me to do. And without people like yourselves helping me, I wouldn't be able to do that. So it's a team effort. We're all working together for the end goal. So thank you.
That's beautiful. So well said. Our absolute pleasure. And I'm Kat Udero, empath, entrepreneur, and psychic wrangler. And we're going to go through just a little bit of, what's it called? Housekeeping. Yes. And so Miss Linda is on the live chat today. And she is also going to be monitoring. So if there's anybody that comes in that's not as congenial, that's just kind of stirring up trouble, we kind of do the three-strike rule on that. So just be respectful of each other, honor each other's truths and boundaries, and let's just get along and be a family. And hey, Linda, I was going to ask you, do you see any live streamers yet that you can tell us who's here yet?
I do see some. Chris is here, and I think at this point it's just no, Chris and Karen are both here this morning.
Oh, nice.
And so our crew is starting to show up.
Yep. Excellent. Awesome. Soon we'll have Sharon and Carla and Laura and all of our buddies will be on. So just so you all know, down below, we do have our links in our description box. And so we've got Kevin's link there to go check out his website where you can also order his book. We have our Facebook events page is down there, as well as our Facebook group. And also, if you'd like to buy us a virtual coffee and support Third Eye Salon, we love that. And we always thank and appreciate all the people who've already done that. You help our show thrive. So we appreciate you so much. And of course, we ask that you, if you're not a subscriber already, go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when we go live on our show. Because as you can see, sometimes our timing is not exactly always on the moment, but you'll get a notification as soon as we go live when we do. And to also just share our content with other people that you think would really benefit from this, from our community, from the information that's coming through, from the Star Nation messages that we love to share. So thank you for doing that. And let's go ahead and jump into Kevin's bio, and then we'll hop into our conversation with Mr. Briggs. So Kevin J. Briggs is an author and specializes in consciousness and the connection to ETs and UFOs. His recently published book, Spiritual Consciousness, A Personal Journey, covers 57 years of his experiences of ET contact and UFO connections. Kevin speaks to many UFO and ET enthusiast groups, and they are always eager to hear his interactions and welcome him with a warm reception. Kevin has written articles, which have been published in Truth magazine. His published book was also mentioned in Psychic News, a UK publication, in their editor's Good Read section. He has also written an article about his ET experiences, which have been published in the New Observations magazine. Kevin has appeared on local radio stations and recently filmed a TV show, Unlocking the Limitless Life, Unlocking Your Limitless Life, hosted by Susan Shatzer and produced by Robin C. Adams. Kevin was a keynote speaker in Miami at the Consciousness and Contact Experiencer Conference, hosted by the Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial and Extraordinary Experiences. That just rolls off the tongue. Kevin was a speaker at the Consciousness and Contact Conference held in July 2019 at the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. I'm gonna have to research that. That sounds like a conference I would love to attend. Kevin has been a guest on our Aussie friend Karen Swain's podcast, Accentuating the Positive. And that's how Kevin got here, was because Karen was like, get Kevin on. And I was like, heck yes. So as well as he was on the Kevin Moore Show in the UK. Kevin appeared on Melissa Kennedy's TV show, The UFO Women, filmed locally in Florida. Kevin is a co-author with Melissa Kennedy and Edgar Yohe, hope I pronounced that right, of the recently published book, Tap into Universal Energy, Understanding Cosmic Energy and Consciousness. Kevin is also on the board of directors for the UFO Hunters of America, which I do want to ask him about later. So, great bio, and give us a thumbs up if you're somebody who's down for disclosure, if you're ready for disclosure, if you're ready for that conversation to finally hit the mainstream in some way, somehow, that we all can talk about it openly and it becomes normalized. So Kevin, I just wanted to give, because I want people to have a little bit of your background as a person before we get into all your contactee stuff. So you grew up in Wakefield in England, and then you said you were a police officer for 20 years, and now you moved to, obviously you're in the US now, you're in Florida, you're doing real estate. What was your impetus to move from the UK and come to the US?
Okay, well, it was my wife's influence to answer that particular question. But yeah, I've had a varied background. I left school and went to work at the University of Leeds as a technician, and I worked as a technician there for about 10, 11 years. And then I left there. I needed a change in direction, and I decided to make an application to join the West Yorkshire Police Force. And I made the application, I was successful, and I was a police officer for 20 years. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. It was a great time. And then I came up to the retirement age, and my wife always wanted to come to the US. She was actually offered a position at Penn State University many years ago, and we had to decide whether she was going to accept the position or not. And we decided, should I say, that I wanted to stay on and get my full police pension, and then I said I would go anywhere. So I got to the retirement age, and I said, right, so we both agreed. And then Sandy said, I said to her, where would you like to go? She said, I'd like to go to the US. So that's what brought us to the US. So when we came over here, we built a small business in real estate with the different facets of real estate. And now I'm sort of semi-retired. I just sell real estate. I don't really remodeling and things like that anymore, but just slow down a little bit. So quite three varied sections. And now I'm an author, speaker, a Zoomer.
A Zoomer. Yeah, a Boomer Zoomer.
Whole new generation now. So, it's just a fascinating journey when I look back. But obviously, throughout that journey, I've had the interactions with the ETs, high conscious beings, whatever you want to call them. So I look back now and I think, how have I got to this position now? I'm sat in this chair in Florida, talking on Zoom about a couple of books to people that are interested and have similar experiences. I mean, it's just, what a journey. It's just fascinating. You couldn't make it up. I'll have to write a book about it. Oh, I have them.
That's awesome. I love your energy. You're so like jovial and happy-go-lucky. And, just listening to your other interviews, initially with Karen, because Karen, I love you, Karen, if you're watching, I love you so much. She's somebody who, she brought you on, and it was just that your energy was like, oh, he's just a happy, jolly, living his life, having the best life ever. Like that's my expression lately. It's like, remember to have the best life ever, you know? And I look at you and you're somebody who just does that by the nature of how you show up in your world. Would you agree?
I think I would, looking back, yes. I mean, I've had the usual ups and downs like everybody has, money problems, house problems, work problems, relationship problems. But we get through those, and they're all stepping stones and learning curves. But I've always been supported by my wife, Sandy. I mean, without her, I couldn't do what I do now. We worked together, we met at the university. And I say, Sandy went on to be the superintendent of the Department of Psychology at Leeds University. I mean, that's a huge position for her. We were both from very modest backgrounds, working class backgrounds, and we both worked hard, and we're still together. In fact, it's our 40th wedding anniversary in September, I believe.
Oh,
I always forget the date, but I know it's September sometime. So a joint journey together. And now the ETs connect with Sandy, they communicate with her.
Wow.
One of them moves her personal items around the house, she'll put something down. And one of them's called Zark. He's a small grey, and he's actually a mathematician and engineer. He has a sense of humour. He has 3 offspring. They call them offspring, not children. And I asked him one day, why does he move my wife's things around, personal items around the home? And he said he likes teasing her. He thinks it's funny. But there's a serious side to let her know that we are here, we are amongst you. But from that, it shows that they have a sense of humour. They are like us. They have families. They have jobs even, probably different to ours. But I remember my first connection. One of my first connections with the Zark, I say, is a small grey from the Pleiades systems. And when I was speaking to him, and I could see his face, and I cracked a joke, and he smiled, and it was just and I felt his emotion. Now I know they are able to do that, and some of us, as the human species, we're empathic with others, can feel others' emotions. But it was the first time I'd felt an ET's emotion, and it was quite a stepping stone for me. It meant he'd shared something with me of himself, not just the fundamentals about his work, his family, and what he does. Part of himself is emotional part, and a lot of people say that the Greys don't have emotions; they're just like androids. But he certainly does, and I suspect that the others, some do and some don't. Some may be the workers and some not. But I've met a couple of Greys, 2 or 3 Greys, and they're all very friendly, and they're all different characters like we have, So it's just an amazing journey with these. But I've got to know each one. I interact with 8, and have done since I was 8, and I've got to know them. Some better than others. And but the whole group is quite important to me now.
Yeah, that was a great little download right there. That was information I'd never heard before. So I wanted to hop back because yes, there are many different types of grays out there from many different star systems. It's not one size fits all. There is a plethora, also different timelines, etc. So you can't just clump anyone together. It's ridiculous. So, but when you were connecting with Zark, his name is Zark?
Zark, yes.
So was that you were doing it telepathically? Were you having an out-of-body experience? Were you on his ship? Like physically, what was your connection with Zark?
No, that was through telepathic communication. I'm able to relax, open my mind, and put the information out there. And then they will appear visually through my third eye, which is very interesting in relation to understanding that ourselves. So we have the conduit for the communication is consciousness itself, conscious energy. It's just like a radio wave or a telephone line or whatever. But then obviously opening up the mind, as I call it, I'm able to see them as well. And with the group of 8, I'm also able to, if I say I want to connect with them, I can close my eyes, I can relax, ask them to appear, and all 8 will appear in like a semicircle. And then just as pure conscious energy, it's moving is the energy. And I can see them now as I look, and they'll be stood in this semicircle, and one will step forward and speak, and I would receive the information, and then when he or she has finished, they would step back, and one of the others would step forward. And that's one way I communicate with them. But there are many modalities of contact, many modalities. That's just one.
That's fascinating, and there's just so much I want to pull out of that. We'll talk about the Council of Eight here in a little bit, for sure. Because one of the things is you're like consciousness as a tool for connection, and it's like, and you're like oh, I'll open my mind, and I'll leave my body and have an out of body experience. And so it's like saying, oh, I hit the light switch, and then the light turned on, and then, and the rest of us are like, where's the damn light switch? How do I, and we don't know how to necessarily do that. Like our lovely friend Jillian knows how to do that because she had a full Kundalini awakening, and it just turned her gifts on. And I know with you had that experience with the orange orb as a kid, which you've talked about in other shows. Where that was Dee and Ort, that was them showing, or it was Ort showing up to kind of check you out and hang out with you before making that initial contact. Your ability to do that like turned on then at the age of 8, which is great because your brain's still like malleable, right? It doesn't have all of these like rigid belief systems closing it off. So how are you able to teach or instruct others, or are you able to teach and instruct others how to do this since you do it so automatically?
That's a very good question. I haven't tried to teach anybody else how to do it.
Okay.
When I speak to my wife about it, and I say, "Oh, just relax, open your mind," and my wife says, "I don't know what you mean."
Exactly. I just open my mind and leave my body.
Well, you just relax and open your mind. But it's because I've done it all my life. It's a part of who I am, and I'm sure we all have these abilities, but we're not allowed to develop them, or we're told we're not allowed to do them or practice them or whatever, and so we don't. But I was never told I couldn't do it, so I just enjoyed doing what I was doing. But clearly, I was being guided as well by Ort and Dee initially, and then the other Council of Eight, as I call them now. So, and if I need any help in anything, I just call on them. It's like ringing up your grandmother and saying, "Oh, I need some help with this. What shall I do?" or whatever. So, but I've had that from being a child. So, to me, it's just normal. And you'll probably find that as I talk about it, it's like I'm talking about my grandmother, my grandfather, my uncle, my extended family, my brother, or whatever, because that's how I feel who I am.
Yeah, it is just part and parcel for who you are now. I want to jot down a quick question here.
Okay. I have a question.
Yes, hop in.
Doing that, Kat.
Yeah.
Have you ever asked them if part of why they're reaching out to you so much is that you are to teach? Have you ever asked them if there are ways?
Right, I haven't asked that specific question. Other people have suggested that I should do that. But again, I don't consider myself a teacher. I'm happy talking about it, but to stand in front of a group and try to teach someone how to do it, I don't know whether I can do that or not. I'm happy talking about it. And if people learn by talking to me or listening, like we're having conversations today, that's fine. Or if they've got a direct question for me, send me a question by email and I'll answer the questions. But I hadn't thought about it, but someone did mention it that perhaps I should do that. But I'm busy doing other things at the moment anyway. Again, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And I don't want to fill my days too much by going and, I'm happy talking and going to conferences and things like that. But as to organizing someone a place and start teaching and have a curriculum, as it were, I don't think it's what I'm meant to do,
Right. Well, it could be. Go ahead, Linda. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I understand that because I know I've thought about doing different things and I have that same resistance. Kat's working on me.
We're going to get her there. She's a natural teacher. And I think one thing is that, Kevin, that happens is that people probably just being in your vicinity and being able to tune into your energy. Whenever we do that with each other and we connect our energy, on that heart level, we start to vibe, and we start to our own gifts start to open, because they start to sync. Our energetic system starts to syncopate with somebody else's energetic system. So maybe things that were dormant in us, or downloads, or upgrades, or whatever that happens, that needs to happen when we're in each other's vicinity, that happens more easily. Like, I know when I'm chatting with Linda and I'm doing psychic work, just exploring something, and or asking questions for myself when I'm connecting with Linda, I like my psychic abilities start to expand, because our energy synced. However, let's go ahead, change the conversation, get into a different lane, because I want to talk to you about Orton D. And so you've talked about Orton D, how you discovered them on other shows. So I'm just going to kind of put it in a really quick nutshell, because it's already out there. So you go check out Kevin on Karn's show. But like Orton D showed up in Kevin's bathroom when he was 8 years old, and he was hearing them telepathically communicate to each other. And Ort was all, D was like, is this the right guy? He's so tiny and, small, and this can't be the right one that we're connecting to. And Ort was like, nope, it's him. I'm going to connect with him. I'll teach him. He'll be fine. And Kevin was like, what just happened? Went and told his mom. His mom told him that you just were having a dream. That's not real. So at that point, Kevin didn't tell anybody anymore, but it also didn't shut him down, because the experiences kept happening. He didn't just say, oh, that's not real, I can't do it anymore. He stayed open to the experiences, and thus his 50 plus years of having UFO and ET contact. So Ort and D are Arcturians from Andromeda. And I kind of want to start in there, kind of so we can understand Ort and D. And do you have anything to add or correct about anything I said so far, Kevin, about your introduction to Ort and D?
Questioned Ort and said, are you sure this is the boy? And he said, yes, this is a boy. And then she said, are you sure? He's very small, he's uneducated, and he's frightened by our presence. So, and then Art said, well, I will guide him, I will teach him. There's some more conversation. So yeah, you're correct in everything other than what Art and Dee said. It was the other way around. So she was questioning him, and he was saying he was going to take me under his wing, as it were, and guide me and teach me. So, that still goes on to this day.
Well, and it's interesting because Ort recognize your soul. I mean, what I'm getting is the bigger picture of Ort recognizing your soul essence, being like, no, this is him. And she's like, is it? Does it look like, that doesn't look like how I remember him to be. Is he really going to show up like this? So I would have to say there was some pre-agreement, pre-contract, hanging out with those two, saying, I'll be the one to incarnate. Do you have any sense of that? Of your pre-life connection with them, your pre-Kevin connection with them?
I suspect that's correct from my understanding of why we are here, and the soul interactions that we have in previous lives and future lives that will happen. So yeah, I think that's the understanding. And they told me that I'm part of their extended family, only I'm here in the third dimension, where they're in the fifth dimension, but I'm part of their extended family. So they come and visit me like the foreign human that lives on Earth, and they come and visit me. So quite an interesting concept, really. As I say, to me, it's just extended family. But I know when I talk about it, other people are just surprised by the interaction and the connection, I think, really.
Well, yeah, it is unlike so many others that I've heard of. It really is outside the box, I would say, in terms of other contactee experiences I've heard. And so that is like this, because also they're not grays. Like number one, they're not grays. Is normally like 90% of the stories you hear about grays initially, not always, but so many of them. And these are Arcturians. And so there are, again, when we talk about Arcturians, it's like saying those are humans, right? Like, it's like they look any number of ways, especially when you start getting on that level of existence, of reality. So, because when we think of Arcturians, we usually think of the people with the bigger heads, and they're blue or they're very pale, got gorgeous eyes, and they don't look like grays, but they do have these like bigger heads on top that come down to a point that's like more heart shaped. And so, but these Andromedans, or these rather Arcturians, are blonde, and they're like the sexy space people, where they've got the beautiful hair, the lovely face, they're very fit. They're the ones that you dream of, like in Star Trek, where you're like, oh, you fall in love with that alien.
Yes.
So have they told you anything about other Arcturians and where they're from, or any details about them?
No, I haven't asked them those particular questions. Perhaps I
Why
should.
not? Why have you never
I,
asked that?
I
That's
don't know.
crazy.
I seem to accept. I do ask questions when I want more information or something I don't understand. But as for just asking a simple question like that, no, I haven't done that. But I am aware of, like you say, the archetypal Star Trek beautiful aliens, as it were, but human features and everything. But I've seen the photographs of the ones that you're describing, with the bluer skin, slightly larger heads, and I'm wondering if they have a hierarchical system as well. Perhaps I'll have to ask them that within their conscious reality. I know D, their vocation is teaching. They've told me that they are both guides and teachers. They are a partnership. They are a married couple, as it were. Again, we don't think of these people as our higher conscious beings as having similar relations to what we have, but clearly they do, and someone did suggest to me just only last week, I think, and said, Kevin, perhaps you're here to learn, to be educated, and then your next incarnation, you'll become one of D. And I thought that was quite a nice option. And then I would be happy to be a teacher, probably, but a guide and a teacher. But at the moment, not.
Well, so let's talk about, let's just I want to kind of crack open Orton D just a little bit more. And then I do want to talk about your next incarnation too at some point, because before the show, we were having, of course, a conversation, and you talked about, you already know what your next incarnation is going to be. So let's bookmark that question. So when we think about Ort and D and how they showed up, and they're Arcturians from Andromeda, which Andromeda is an entire galaxy. So it's like saying, it's like saying you're a humanoid from the Milky Way. It's so vast. It's really huge. And they showed up to you, and their mission was to, because here's the deal, like, you had these experiences for years, but it wasn't only until 3 years ago where they were like, okay, it's time to go public. And you're like, I'm going to do what now? Write a book? I don't think so. And they were like, no, we'll help you. It's okay. But this is time. And do you feel like this whole experience was your preparation? These last 50 some years were preparing you to go ahead for this moment of this new chapter of your life of being this talker presenter?
Yeah, I would agree with that now. And looking back, I think I remember before a few years ago when they did ask me, I can just explain what happened with that. I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom at about 4 a.m. I came back from the bathroom, got into bed. As I was about to snuggle down, there was a bright light outside the window. Then the light came into the bedroom, and it lit up like a myriad of sparkling butterflies. It was just white light. And then Orton D materialized at the bottom of the bed. So after pleasantries, because I'm used to seeing them, I asked what was the reason for the visit. And then that's when they explained that they wanted me to start talking out about it. But before that, I don't know what the period of time was. I thought, well, I've got all these abilities, and I only use them for my own entertainment and the experiences and things. I've been guided. I wish I could do something where I could use all these abilities and help other people. And then sometime after that, they materialized in my bedroom and just asked me to do that, really. So I'm clearly, the path is being guided, which I'm sure we're all being guided to some degree by our ET guides, our higher conscious beings, our higher selves, even just guiding us on this journey in this physical that we're experiencing at the moment. So yeah, it's I'm where I should be. And I'm happy where I am. That's the key thing. And I know that I've been given two. My mission is twofold. One is to share my story and talk about it. That's the first part. And the second part of the mission is to help facilitate what they call the reveal, when they reveal themselves in the physical to us here on our planet. They've been trying to do that through our governments, and our governments are pushing back against that. So I believe now that we will be doing that through the people, and the people will bring that reveal forward. And that's why we're seeing all these people like myself speaking out, and there are others that have got even higher connections than I have in relation, or people who have been contacted at for the first time in the 50s. And these people are now leading groups and things. They've got their own contacts, and I believe we'll all be coming together under that one umbrella. I mean, I can ask them to appear. I was at that conference you mentioned in South Dakota a couple of years ago. I was there, and I think Alan Steinfeld came up to me and said, would your ET show us a craft? I said, well, I don't know. He said, well, will you ask them? And then he went and asked Ananda Bosman and another guy called Dave Cottrell. So we all asked, and within a couple of minutes, the craft appeared above the ceremony, and it was there for an hour and 20 minutes. So, you know, we're able to ask them to show themselves. So if we can do that with a craft, we can take it one step further and ask them to come down physically. But there's obviously certain protocols they want in place before they do that. I think that's the next step that we're all working towards. And then when you get all these collective people together who have got their own contact at the level that I have or even above, then we are co-creating using consciousness itself, shared consciousness with the ETs to create our future life on Earth. So that's what we're really doing. And if and most of these people have an understanding of that and how we can, consciousness can be used for travel, for communication, for healing, and for creation itself. And that creation is the creation of the reality that we are currently in. And we're extending that reality using shared consciousness with the ETs to extend our reality down here in the third dimension. So it's straightforward to me because they've given me a knowledge and understanding of all this. So now it's bringing all the people together to do that. And there are many others bringing people together and many people speaking out. So we have the skills, we have the knowledge, we have the abilities now. We have to move forward as a people, as a species, as humanity, to bring it all together for the sake of humanity and the sake of the planet itself. So, so I'm where I should be. I'm saying what I'm supposed to say, and we'll see where it takes us.
Well, yeah, and I think about in terms of you saying that you have this contact, which for you is just like so easy. It's like a second skin. There was nothing startling. I mean, you were freaked out when you were 8 years old, but like after that, like the initial contact, it freaked you out. But after that, it was like you just didn't have any trauma around it, which, I mean, that's the other really different thing, is that there wasn't this wall of fear that you had to work through in order to accept your ET connection. It was just, you're okay with it from early on, which is really, I mean, the level to which you're okay is what's really odd, especially when you met the Council of Eight, which we'll get into a little bit. But I think that, you know, as the more, because we are all connected, we are all one. And as our lights turn on and we're like, oh, Jillian has an ET connection. Oh, Linda has one. Oh, Kat's going to eventually have one here. Like, you know, and, you know, you're having one, other people are having one. As we have that, it's like, as our individual lights turn on, it does become disclosure. It's like an internal disclosure where it's like, you have your own intimate encounter with it, which is so much more potent than we have to get away from the media telling us what's true. And, you know, it's like we're waiting for the media to give us the okay to believe that UFOs are real and extraterrestrials are real. And we finally have the, you know, the mainstream's thumbs up to go ahead and believe that. And I think what's going to surpass that is just so many people are going to keep popping open like they have been, that we can't help but have disclosure, because it's irresistible at that point. The momentum is too strong. The density is too great. You know, does that make sense?
Well, oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. And we were chatting before we came on air here today, and Gillian was telling me about some of her experiences, you know, having 3 ETs coming through the wall. Well, it shows, and obviously there's an age difference between the two of us, which I'm sure you've noticed. And Gillian is having these experiences now and talking about them. It's our younger generations that will have the benefits of the ET contact, and the fact that Gillian talks out about it, Linda's now speaking out about it. We're, like I say, we're all part of this team, and I'm sure Gillian, we're talking to her generation about this, and people are interested. I actually went to my local garage the other day for my service station. My AC conked out on my expedition. So I drove it in, he fixed it, and I went to collect it. And he started talking to me about ETs and UFOs. And I'm thinking, this is fascinating. And there's about 4 people waiting to pick up the vehicles. And we're having this conversation about ETs and UFOs. You couldn't have done that 10 years ago. You know, you'd have been ridiculed.
Right.
And
Wow.
then it's just amazing, really, how we're moving exponentially closer to what my ETs call the reveal and what the general population, the government's called disclosure. So we'll have to see where it takes it. But like I said before, there's many working towards it. And it's nice to see. I saw another young lady talking about it. I forget her name now. I'll have to write it down. I see so many people. But her enthusiasm, her connection to the ETs, and she's only in her 20s. I mean, it's just amazing what's happening now. So I think I saw her, was it taught by, what's her name now? Hinson, forget her first name. And she was saying about 3 waves of the like star seeds, as it were, first, second, and third waves. Well, I would fit into that as like the first wave, you know, in the 50s, and then now the second wave, and now the third wave, and probably the 4th wave will come forward. It's a gathered momentum. Susie Hansen.
Oh yeah,
Hansen.
we've had Susie on.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, she talks about that. I listened to that, and when she spoke about that, I identified with that myself because of my age. I was born in 1954, so I was probably part of it. But that's the beauty. Like where the 4 of us are talking here, you get information that supports who you are, where you are, what position you're in this jigsaw, as it were, and it helps you move on to the next stage, has a little bit more knowledge, and get confirmation to, like I can quote Susie Hansen in relation to the first, second, and third wave. Although I wasn't aware of it, you know, she's an experiencer. She knows what she's talking about. I can share that information with others, knowing that I've seen it come direct from her mouth as a first port of call, as it were, not second or third hand. So that's right. The beauty of us all getting together, talking, and just chatting about it, really.
So I want to also make sure, because I kind of want to really massage the Orton D aspect of your ET connection before I move into the Council of 8, because you know that you've known them since you were 8, and you keep saying like consciousness. You can use consciousness to do this. You can use consciousness to do that. So my sense is that they've taught you over these many years about consciousness and how it works. Because when I think, oh, I'm conscious, or I just went unconscious and I was acting automatically. And, you know, consciousness is my awareness. And so I feel like my understanding of consciousness is perhaps quite narrow to your understanding of consciousness, which is more of this activated focus. And this energized, activated focus is what I get when I think about how you use consciousness. What is what's the best way to say this? How do you use consciousness as a tool in your life? How does that work?
Okay, that's a very good question. How do I use it as a tool? Okay, well, I use it as for out-of-body travel, and I think Gillian does that as well. I think she travels out of body. So what we're doing there is separating our conscious energy from the physical, and then the conscious energy can travel anywhere within this conscious universe. So that's one example of how we use it. Another would be communication. That would be like telepathic communication. I can close my eyes, open my mind, and ask a question of D or one of the Council of 8, and then a thought will come back into my head, and that's the reply. That's the connection. So I think Gillian's wanting to say something else. You just wave it.
Oh, Gillian, sorry. Yes.
No, that's fine. See, what for the past year and a half, I've been taking a mediumship course through Sean Leonard. We had him on the show a bit back, and it's the same thing. Like I started connecting when I started connecting with the ETs, with the visuals while I was meditating. Same thing. I'll relax and I see them. The same thing was happening with spirits and people who were deceased. So once I started taking that course, it's the same way that it shows up. Like you can, like Kevin was saying, everyone has this, you know, to a certain degree, but I feel like if you pursue something like a mediumship course, if you want to be able to learn how to do this stuff, you can certainly gear it towards ETs. And there's tools and techniques within the course that just completely correlate with the way that an experiencer does experience these things. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I would agree with that, because obviously I'm able to communicate with my deceased family and friends as well. So I think Linda wanted to say something along those lines.
Yes. So back when we were asking you questions about why don't you ask them this, why don't you ask them that, I had this sensation. I don't know if you remember as kids, you used to play like you were breaking an egg on somebody's head. You do the little feeler first and knock the egg and you feel it come down. I was having that sensation like somebody was playing with my hair, and I heard and felt this like incredible joy of, and I heard the exact words, I typed it out, he just accepts us. And that was what I was hearing with you, is that the reason they enjoy you is that you just accepted them.
Right. Okay.
And that there was this, I felt a visceral joy in like this comfort. They don't have to,
Right.
yeah, this just comfort with you. And I think with that, we were talking about the consciousness. When I've had my experiences, the only thing I can equate it to is like when a mother moves a vehicle because her kid's trapped underneath it, and there's no physical way that she should be able to move that vehicle. The times I've had it happen, I had no limiting beliefs. It was just an action. It was just, I just did it, either out of curiosity or need. I just did it. And so for me, that consciousness is just a removal of those limiting barriers that we have as preconceived limitations. And you don't have them.
That's an excellent way to describe it. Yes, I hadn't thought of that. But yes, we have, from what you're saying there, we have the limitations within us. And I don't have any limitations in relation to the ETs, because I accept them, I love them, they're part of my extended family. But it's the same with the 3D reality that you're just explaining here, Linda, in relation to lifting that vehicle because there's a child trapped underneath it. You just allow it to happen, you just do it. And I think that's the key of using consciousness itself in that particular aspect. And I say there's many other aspects of we can use consciousness. And if we see it as, you know, like I always describe it as like I'm an old TV set or something, and that you tune into the different levels of vibrational frequency, although they were radio signals with the TV or radio. It's the same with the brain. If you relax, open it, it's got an open dial on there. You can put the information out, and then the information will come back and you will receive it. But you have to learn, or I had to learn to do that. And over the years, I did it by asking for confirmation if I received information. In fact, just one recently, a few years ago, I got a download of the quantum unified field theory, and they were explaining that the scientists' understanding of it was correct. However, there was further interaction, and that was one of consciousness. And if our scientists included consciousness within the quantum unified field theory, it would give them a better understanding of their own quantum unified field theory. Now, when I got that download, I was just sat by my pool area, and I said to myself, well, I said to them, I said, you've just given me all this information now about the quantum unified field theory, which I know nothing about. And I really need to know that it's just not my own thoughts, and that you've given me the information. As confirmation, can you show me a craft? And a craft appeared immediately to the left-hand side of my pool area outside the cage. I went in to collect my wife and say, Sandy, there's a craft outside. Will you come out and have a look at it? As a witness, really. And I'm thinking, hope it's still there, hope it's still there. And we went outside and it was still there. A second one appeared, a third one, a fourth, fifth, 7 in total. They flew silently over our heads, changed directions by about 80 degrees, and then disappeared sequentially as they had appeared at the same spot. So that was confirmation of that telepathic download of information. And then I had another one later with the theory of everything. They were telling us that there was a measurement problem within our scientists' communications, calculations in relation to space, time, and dimension. And again, if they were to include consciousness, C, as a constant within their communication, within their calculations, then they will be able to solve that measurement problem. So on that occasion, again, I knew nothing of that. It was just given as a download. And I said, again, I don't know if this is my own thought or whether you've given me the thought. Can you show me a craft as confirmation? And immediately a craft appeared and it flashed once, twice, 3 times. So that was sufficient confirmation. And if you continue to do that, every time you receive information, telepathically, whatever, and you ask for confirmation, then you'll get very confident and comfortable with the level of communication that you have. In fact, I only used it last night. I went out and it was dark and I asked a question to them, and it was a question, and I didn't realize the question itself at the time, but the question was about ego and it was about me. And I asked them this question. I said, if this is correct, can you turn that street light? It was off at the moment. I said, can you turn that street light on? Nothing happened. So I changed the question to a different type of question. And I said, right, can you now turn the street light on? And it came on immediately. That was still a lesson to me about ego. We have to dispense with the ego. So my teachings still continue, but through different sorts of communication. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Linda and I have had experiences like that too, just working with the pendulum and asking questions. And it's like, nope, you're not quite asking the right question. You need to change the question. And I don't think it's about getting rid of the ego. I think it's about incorporating the ego, but in its rightful place, as opposed to it being in charge, because I think the ego is incredibly valuable. It's our interface system for being in the 3rd dimensional planet. When people are like, oh, I lost my ego, then I'd be like, okay, then you know how to function here, because we're all going to have some ego to anchor us here. And the people who've lost their ego,
I would agree with that
ungrounded.
entirely. I would agree with that entirely. We need, I've heard people say, you know, got to get rid of your ego, but we need some ego to function, get that motivation to go and do something. So we do need that. So, but again, you know, I've still, they do check me, or if I say I'm not going to do that, they'll give me some more information that will persuade me, or I still have free will in what I do and can say no. But in fact, if we've got time, I've got a small story about that when they asked me to do something, and it incorporates quite a bit out of body traveling on an astral plane. It probably takes about 5-10 minutes for me to go through the whole story, really.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course we'd want to hear that. So I want to ask you real quick though, with Orton D. Later on, I wanted to ask we'll come back to that story next. But would it be okay if we gathered questions, maybe from our group, from ourselves, to ask you to ask Orton D in the Council of 8 while we're doing the show? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, we can try that. Yeah, see,
okay.
Most of the time they respond. Sometimes they don't.
Okay.
I remember on one occasion I was trying to communicate with them, and I was unable to communicate with them, whether they ignored me or what. But I put the information out there, and the information that came back, there was a craft flying at the rear of our property, a small saucer type craft with about 6 or 7 greys on. It was being piloted by a small grey called Tia, who I'd met in the past. So I wasn't able to communicate with them. They wouldn't on that occasion, but I was able to communicate with Tia. We had a conversation. I asked him what he was doing, and he said they deviated from the flight path because they wanted to see where we lived. So that's why they were there. So I had a brief conversation, and then they left. Nothing unusual for me, but then my wife was sat outside on the pool area. I was in the bedroom. I went outside, and she told me about a rainbow that appeared at the back of the property. We have 5 acres, and it went from fence line to fence line. I asked if she got a photograph of it. She said yes. And then, which said what happened next, as she was taking the photograph, a craft appeared under the rainbow, and she got a photograph of it. When we looked at the photograph, at the time on the photograph, it was 8:30, the exact time I was communicating with Tia. Wow. So on that one time, when I was trying to communicate with the Council of 8, I actually contacted Tia, but I got confirmation by them including my wife. They attracted her attention by the rainbow. Rainbows are used as portals because they're light, and they materialized the craft for her. My wife saw it. It was about 50 feet high, 500 feet from where she was. It was a solid metallic disc. When she took the photograph, it was a little bit blurred because I suspect it was just there for that split second, A, to communicate with Sandy, and B, for confirmation that I was telepathically communicating with Tia, who was flying the craft. And I'm sure he said at the rear of your property, yeah. So we've come to see you. So everything tied together in relation to that. And again, it's including Sandy, the connection and the communication. So yeah. So in answer to your question, we can try, and I can see if they get some answers back and see what happens.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah. So people watching, our tribe watching, go ahead and ping or put in your questions for Miss Linda to collect if you have questions for the Council of 8. And yeah,
I already have one.
All right, great. All right, so we'll start collecting those. And I also just want to say, I feel like you're a celebrity on the ET side, Kevin, where they're like, oh, did you go to Kevin's house tonight? Isn't he great? Like, I mean, 7 shows showing up to be like, it's real. Like, that's like a standing salute of, like, that's like guns going off saying that we're here, we love you. It's so much attention for one human that you must just be so well loved. That's my personal reflection. So what is your story that's going to take the 5 to 10 or minute that you want to tell us? What was that about?
Oh, right. Okay, then. Let me think now. Which one was it? Oh, it was the one. I went to bed this evening. I very often I'll communicate with on the astral plane itself. So I'll leave my body. I'll travel up to the astral plane, and they tell me that's a plane between the different dimensions. And I suspect that they come down from the high dimensions, and I raise my vibrational frequency, leave my physical behind, which is impeding me traveling, and I go and travel. And on this particular occasion, I was traveling on the astral plane just for enjoyment, just for entertainment. It's such a beautiful feeling to separate, to be free of the physical and the third dimensional reality, with all the weight that comes with. So I'm just traveling there. I'm enjoying myself just traveling. And then a craft comes alongside me. And the craft is, I get this image of a round shape, and deer inside. They invite me into the craft. I go into the craft. As I travel into the craft, I notice that the skin of the craft is conscious in itself. So I go inside the craft, and there are 2 conscious energy orbs in the craft. Orangey yellow in color, 4 to 6 inches across, slightly vibrating, and that's Autumn D. So we're communicating to one another. And on this particular occasion, I did ask them, I know we are traveling on the astral plane in a conscious craft, and I see you as pure conscious energy orb. How do you see me? And they said at that particular time, we see you exactly the same, Kevin, as a pure conscious energy orb. So that was confirmation of the fact that you're separating your consciousness, as they do. That's one of the modalities for communication, one of the modalities for travel that they use, amongst others. But then they said that they wanted me to convey a message. and they wanted me to convey a message to Dr. Stephen Greer. And they gave me the message, and I said, yes, I would convey the message to him. I left the craft, and then I thought, well, he'll want to know who the message is from. Is it from, should I just say Alt D, or that's all, as I know. So I asked to go back onto the craft. I went back onto the craft, and I said, yeah, I'm happy to convey the message, but who shall I say the message is from? And they said, tell Dr. Stephen Greer that it's from the light beings. I said, okay. Now, I hadn't heard that term before. That's the first time I'd heard it. So I left the craft through the conscious skin. I went back to my physical. I woke up. I wrote the message down, the time, the date, and the actual message. And then I went back to sleep. I woke up in the morning. I read the message, and I thought, I'm not doing that. I screwed it up and threw it in the trash. And the reason for not doing it, was the fact, well, you know, I don't know this guy. I know of him, but I don't know him. He doesn't know me. You can't just contact somebody out of the blue and say, oh, I was traveling on the astral plane. Light beings gave me your message. Here it is. I mean, he just doesn't work like that. So I wasn't doing it. Simple as that. So I said no. The following evening, I went to bed, fast asleep. Orton D come into a dream. And they say, Kevin, it's very important that you convey this message. And if you don't, then Dr. Stephen Greer may come to some harm. So that put a different light on it. So I woke up the following morning, and the message was just to change his itinerary for a specific date. That was the message. But then obviously they added the extra bit that to persuade me that if he didn't change, if I didn't convey the message, it may come to some harm. So that left me with a moral dilemma. Do I contact a man who I don't know, give him the story, and he considers I'm obviously dimensional or lunatic or got mental health problems? Well, I thought, well, I could deal with that. I've been called worse in my life. So, but the other option, if I don't tell him and it came to some serious harm on that day, I would never forgive myself. So then I decided to convey the message. So then how do I contact him? I don't know him. I have no contact with him. I know of him. But I do find with my ET guys, if I have a problem and I ask them to help me, they will. So I said, well, I need some help to find out how to contact. So I went to my computer. I turned on the YouTube channel and I put his name in. And at the top of the list on the right-hand side with the videos that come up, there was the disclosure conference in, I forget where it was now. And there was a picture of Dr. Stephen Greer giving a presentation, or sat in the front row there, and sat next to him was somebody that I did recognize. His name was Gary Heseltine. He was a police officer in the UK in the same area where I was a police officer. So I thought, right, okay, that's fine. He's obviously friends with Dr. Stephen Greer because he sat next to him. And I was aware of Gary. I'd never met him, never spoke to him, but I knew who he was because of his lifelong UFOs interactions with the police forces. And so I got his email and I emailed him, and I thought, well, I think I should speak to him about it rather than just emailing the information. So I got his phone number, I phoned him up, and I gave him the exact information with the exact story of how I'd got the information. He was non-judgmental whatsoever. And then he said he will convey the message because of the severity of the harm that was involved within the message. So he sent it on. An hour later, I received an email from Gary Heseltine, who said that Dr. Stephen Greer had thanked me for the information, and he would take it under consideration and advisement. And then he sent a photograph of a light being he had taken while he was out in the field doing some field work. So that was really confirmation. I'd never seen a picture of a light being before. I've seen it a few times now, the same one, but he sent that one to me. So that was really there's several messages in there in that one single experience. you know, communication, traveling on the astral plane, conscious craft, conscious energy orbs, conveying messages, saying, no, I'm not going to do it. And then continuing on that line. And I've never spoken to Dr. Stephen Greer, I've never met him, but obviously he has that information. I still speak with Gary Heseltine. In fact, he's just started a new group called ISA, which is an international group in relation to ET contact. So he's continuing his work as well. So, but it's that when you get that confirmation from different people who've been working in the field for many, many years, it helps with my understanding of what's going on, and it helps support what's going on, I think, you know. And I've had messages from other people, from other sources that I have shared, and again, I'm reluctant to share them because they're so way out there that I very often don't want to share them. But I find that when I do, those particular people's lives change exponentially, and it helps them no end. So I'm a little bit more confident now in sharing. In fact, I'm writing an essay at the moment for the Robert Bigelow competition, and the competition is it's the title of the essay is Evidence in Life After Human Physical Death. So you have to make an application to enter. I made the application and I was accepted. So I'm writing the essay. I've just about got it finished now, I think, up to 25,000 words. But within that, if you're talking about our deceased family members and communication and life after human physical death, we have to include consciousness. If you're including consciousness, then you have to include the ETs. So I've incorporated that. I've put that story in about Dr. Stephen Greer. I've got some other stories in there that I haven't spoken about before. I say stories because that's how I remember them. That's I have this mental understanding of them. I visualize them as I speak about them, so I don't forget them, and I get them correct. And you can ask me in 20 years, and I'll give you exactly the same story with the same words. So because it's imprinted in my brain, and I'm sure they do that. Because there's nothing worse than saying something and then there's something sometime later you say something totally different, you know. So we have to be correct in what I'm saying. So that's just an example of one experience that they gave me, encompassing some of the abilities that I have. But I did ask them afterwards, why did you ask me to convey that particular message for Dr. Stephen Greer? And they said, because we wanted to see if you would convey messages from us. That was
wow.
So it was a lesson. It was a lesson.
It was also a little bit of an initiation. Like if he passes this, then he can be given more responsibility.
Yeah, and you can go on to the next level. So,
yeah.
So it's I mean, they've got the template for what's going on there, controlling everything, and I'm not really important to this. I'm just a small piece in this huge jigsaw, but the jigsaw's coming together now. So again, I keep saying exciting times because I'm told by the Council of Eight that we are moving towards the golden years for humanity, where we will have our own new technologies released, and we will have shared technologies from the ETs. And that's why we are moving towards the golden years for humanity. There will be turmoil and upset before we get there, but we are moving towards it. So that's a very positive sign from the communication that I have. You know, that keeps me going through all the turmoil that we are going through at the moment. It's tremendous, but there's light at the end of the tunnel, or golden light at the end of the tunnel, shall we say. But can you imagine a society that includes the ETs amongst us? And communicating, sharing technologies. Yes, I
think about it all the time.
It's the next step in our stage of evolution, and we are getting ready for it. And I think the best thing is the education of the spiritual side of who we are, because we've lost that, and we need to regain that to realize that we all share this consciousness, and we're all at different levels of this consciousness at different vibrational frequencies. And some of us can travel between the dimensions, some of us can communicate, but we all have those abilities. Many of us are still in kindergarten, and we need to graduate and just come up to those higher levels so we can have same communication that I've always, throughout my life, if I had a problem or an issue, I would always ask my deceased father, because he died when I was 9, or I would ask my ETs, and they always gave me an answer. Not always maybe a telepathic answer, but something would appear in a magazine, or I would see something and read it, or something would appear on the TV, and it would be the answer to the question that I've asked. And when you learn to do that as a child, and you do it throughout your life, it's got huge implications of who we are. And I think that's probably why I'm a happy person, because, I still have a problem. I had a problem yesterday with the computer, and I went to bed, I was thinking about it, and I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, oh, let me go see if I can sort that. I can't get back to sleep now. So I came out, I asked for assistance. I said, can you help me sort this problem out? Anyway, I solved it. It wasn't a problem. I'm not quite sure what was wrong, but I fixed it. I went back to bed, and I went back to sleep. But the story there is the fact that I asked, I'm sat here at 3 o'clock in the morning at this very seat computer saying, oh, I need to sort this because I can't sleep. And I did exactly what I did yesterday before I went to bed, only this time it resolved the problem that I had. And it was a minor problem, but I interact with them with minor problems. Like, they're probably both sick of me now.
No, I think that's just, but that feels like a natural relationship where you have it so naturally. Jillian, I go ahead, hop in with your question.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I get the exact same thing. Ever since I started to consciously connect with the ETs and with spirit, I could ask a question, a song will come on the radio, the exact line is the answer to the direct question. I have a daughter and a son, but anyway, she has her cartoons, and I'll even be doing dishes and I'll have a question pop up in my mind, and something will come out in the cartoon that just answers it completely. I haven't really talked to anyone who has mentioned that kind of, like, I term it a certain type of synchronicity where it just, it's so weird, but that's so cool that you get that too.
I'm sure many people do, but we just don't talk about it because it's been taboo in the past, and people think, oh, you're a bit cuckoo or dimensional or whatever. I don't know. It's so the more we talk about it, then it becomes part of our reality. It becomes part of who we are. And then if you look at the synchronicities that are happening around you, very often I get information. I remember last year on February the 1st, they woke me up at 1 a.m. Because I always look at the clock. They just woke me up. Why? It's 11 minutes past 1 a.m. on February the 1st. What they're doing? They give me some information, but then I ask for confirmation, and then. But once you get used to that, it becomes part of who you are, really, part of your reality, and it helps you navigate. Because it's hard living down here in this third dimension. A lot of hurdles to get over, a lot of people to communicate with, and so we need all the help we can get.
I wanted to ask also on that, because you talk about the Council of 8. Let's talk about.
I'll just stop you there. The time on my computer is 1:11 p.m.
It's 11:11 right now. It's 11:11.
1:11.
Yeah, we're 2 hours. We're 2 hours difference. Good catch.
That is so cool.
So that's a nice synchronicity. We'll honor that. That's our guides talking for sure. So tell us a little bit about the Council of 8, because I also want to make sure we have time to ask them all some questions if they're willing to correspond. But the Council of 8 showed up when you were 14 years old, if I remember correctly. You were just out doing your bike on your bike, doing your paper route and throwing the papers. And they showed up and they were like, well, hey, we'd like to take you on board and talk to you. And you were like, can't right now, busy working, which is so amazing itself. And they were like, well, we'll get you back to your route on time, essentially. I'm paraphrasing.
Okay. Yeah.
So
okay. Well, yes.
Tell us about the Council of 8.
So go on. Okay. Obviously, Art and D are part of the Council of 8, and obviously I met those when I was 6. You've already 8. You've already described that. When I was 14 in the UK, I had a paper route to have some pocket money, and every time I left the house on a morning, especially in the winter, a UFO would appear as I walked out the gate. And then a second UFO would appear, and then they'd follow me around the paper round. And I became a little paranoid as a 14-year-old, thinking they were following me, and clearly they were. And at the end of the paper round, one would usually go back in the opposite direction to which it had come, complete turnaround, and then the second one would just go straight up into space. And that was common most days when I went out. But I was also, as a child, I was aware of the other vibrational frequencies around us that we can't see, but I can feel those energies that are there. And while I was doing the paper round, I was always aware of some other entities, some other energies behind the hedge, behind the wall, walking behind me, following me, but I obviously couldn't see anything. On one occasion, I plucked up the courage and I said, I know you're there. Can you come out? Can you show yourself? And two small greys came out from behind the, can't remember if there's a hedge or a wall now, but they came out, they showed themselves. I wasn't frightened. They were about the same size as I was, as a 14-year-old. And I said, you know, what did you want? Why are you here? And they said, well, there's a group of people that want to meet with you. And I said, well, I'm busy doing my paper round. And then I've got to go to school. I don't have any time, really. They said, well, you can finish your paper round, and then we can go and meet this group of people, and then we'll have you back in time for school. So I said, okay then. So I finished my paper round. I left my bag, which I always used to do. And then we went and they took me up into a large mothership. And I only know it was the mothership because of the size of the hangar that we flew into. There were all sorts of ships there, huge ones, small ones. And as we got out of the craft that I was in, we were walking towards the door into the main entrance, as it were. And I mentioned Tia before, the pilot of one of that small craft that appeared where my wife took the photograph. And I didn't know him. That was the first time I met him. He was working on one of the crafts. Not only is a pilot, he's a technician. He repairs them. And he waved to me as I was walking towards the craft door, as it were. So I waved back just to be polite. I didn't know who he was. And then I went in and I was led down into an amphitheater. And I walked in, and it's just like an amphitheater we have here, like with when our governments meet or dignitaries. There's a small stage at the front and just an amphitheater with seats. So I was led down to the front, and on the front stage there were 8 beings sat there, 2 of them being Orton D. And then there was Anna. She was like a blue, I say blue avian, but I got that term from searching how she looked, if anybody'd seen one. Mm-hmm. So she's never told me she's a blue avian, but she has very tight blue feathers. She has a duck-like beak, and she's very compassionate. She is an empath and she's a healer. So I met her. Yeah, she wasn't very tall, about
5'4", you said?
I can only do it in relation to me, probably about 5'5", because she came up and put her arm around me at one stage because I was feeling apprehensive when I was introduced to Chica. He's a mantis being, and it was like a big grasshopper, and I was a bit perturbed by that. And she picked up on that, and she got up from her seat and came round and comforted me. And then I've already mentioned Zark, he was there. And then at the center of the group was Ra. He's a Anunnaki, and he leads the group. He's very old, thousands of years old, he tells me. And I asked him if he was not on that particular occasion, but on another occasion, if he was the god Ra that the Egyptians talk about. Mm-hmm. He said, no. He said, I spell my name differently. I spell it R-A-H. I was around in that time, but I'm not that god Ra that you are speaking about. So I cleared that up with him. And then there was Tag. He's a tall grey, and he's responsible for the security, not only of the Council of 8, but for this quadrant of the galaxy. I don't think we think about them being separated into quadrants. And then there was Chica that I've just mentioned, the mantis. Now, I know he doesn't have a sense of humor, because later on, when I met him again, I asked him if he was an entomologist and being a large insect. And he looked at me with that look that your mother would give you as a child when you said something stupid. So he wasn't happy with that. So I knew that he didn't have a sense. So I don't know what he does for a living. He didn't tell me, but I know he's not an entomologist. So and then the last one would be Orla. She's a tall white.
Okay.
So I know a little bit about each of them, not as much as I know about Zark, but
And Zark is the gray.
the small grade, the mathematician, the engineer. He designs propulsion systems. He's got 3 offspring, and he's from the Pleiades system. Yes.
He's from the Pleiades.
And he has a sense of humor. That's as much as I know about him.
It's so wild that you've not interviewed them. To my mind, I would just interviewed them about everything. I would have gone to their planets. I would have, you know, if I had your abilities, I think I would at least, if I had different shoes. But I wanted to ask, backpedaling into, have you ever drawn them or had someone draw? I mean, because this is quite a cast of characters, and it would be great to be able to see them in a visual standing next to each other and have some sort of visual representation to connect with them. Has that ever happened?
I haven't. No, I've seen what should I say? Pictures on the internet, on Facebook, where people have put a group of ETs, and within that group, I can pick out 7 of the Council of 8, except for Ra. No one seems to have a picture of Ra. But having said that, I remember giving a talk about my book to a small group of people, and there was a lady who was sat in the audience, and she said she's a psychic and an empath, and she said, "Kevin, while you were giving your talk, there was a tall guy stood behind you, and he had his hands clasped in a certain way," and she described him, and that was Ra. And I never described Ra to anybody. So he is clearly here. He is, and I have actually channeled him. In fact, if you go onto my website, kevinjbriggs.com, there's a channel I did there in Miami at the Edgar Mitchell Foundation. That was another strange story. I was asked by my ET guys to go and speak at that particular conference. And at that time, I don't think I knew Ray Hernandez. I might have known him by reputation or whatever, or his work. So I contacted him and I said, you know, can I come and speak at your conference? And he said yes. And then the Council of 8 said that Ra would speak through me, and I channeled that. And I've put that on my website. So if everybody's interested, you have to scroll down and go on to events and media. And I think it's very near the bottom there. So I've uploaded about 7 or 8 interviews. So, but if you're interested in channeling, and but the energy with Ra, the other 7, I'm okay with the energy, but his energy is absolutely tremendous. And we did do, I was channeling at my home with a group of people over a period of a year. And every time I channeled, the air temperature immediately around my body rose by 10 degrees. On this particular occasion, it was 77 degrees in the room with the AC on. And then I started channeling, and it went to 87 degrees just around my body. And
wow.
But that shows the conscious energy that's coming in, that's used to for Ra to speak through me. So you'll see in that, if you watch that particular talk I did, I get up there, I'm quite normal as I can be. And but then I start sweating, and that's because of the heat that's generating through me. But he describes in that how they would like the reveal to happen. I don't know whether we're going to go down that route now, because they're telling me now the reveal will come through the people. So they may have changed that, but I'm sure they will be part of it. And I know of another group that are very interested in meeting with us. So yeah, just more. That's how I connected with them initially, and then I've interacted with them through my life at different times. But mainly Orton D. Raz contacted me a couple of times, and so, but they're all still there, and as I say, I can communicate with them as and when I want. But you asked about some questions. I mean, I do, because I spoke with them. We had, I was asked to go down to a MUFON meeting by Ort in Orlando. There was a conference down there. And I said to him, I don't want to go. I'm not interested in going. You know, they'll all be talking about UFOs, and I'm not interested. And they said, "Oh, we'd like you to go." Okay then. So I paid my money. I went down for a Sunday, the last day I think it was. And on the way down, driving down there, and I said, "Look, I'm going down here under duress. I don't want to go. If I'm going here, I want to meet people that'll help me on my journey." So he said, "Okay then." So I got there and I listened to all the talks in the morning. Very interesting. But I was surprised at the caliber of people. There were a lot of scientists there, a lot of engineers, a lot of very well-educated people, a lot of doctors, PhD people. And I'm thinking, that surprised me. I'm thinking of the Tin Hat Brigade. And Eric wasn't like that. But then at lunchtime, I went to get some lunch, went to the cafeteria, and it was absolutely full with no seats. I bought a sandwich and I went to sit down. I thought, where can I sit? And then I saw a spare seat on a table. There was two ladies sat there. So I walked up and said, "Is it okay if I sit down and eat my sandwich?" So yes, no problem. So they were chatting away. And after a couple of minutes, they brought me into their conversation. One of those ladies was Dr. Barton, Melanie Barton. She was a person I was supposed to meet. Through Melanie Barton, I met Kathy Marden and Denise Stoner. And then we all met at my house. And then that's when the channeling started. And we recorded the channeling, one channel a month for 12 months. So a lot of the information they've already given me. So I might be able to answer many of the questions anyway. But we don't do that now. But Kathy Martin is going to be bringing the channeling transcripts out in a book, in her next book. So, and they're very interesting reading. I know when I read them, because I don't always remember when I do a channel what information is coming through. So they do make. I think, did I say that? Did I say that? I don't know. So it's interesting for me, but it answers a lot of questions that most people would answer, and so the whole journey within that 3-year period. You read out my bio there, and I think, is that me? Have I done all? You know, and I think, well, yes, it is. So it's just, I still can't get over it, really.
Well, let's go ahead and do that now, since we were like in the last section of our show, and get people to pose those questions, and you'll just open your mind and be able to connect with your tribe there, Council of 8. Linda, do you want to start sharing questions?
I do. So my first one is my own question.
Nicely played.
I get to go first. So my question is that I am interacting with a lot of people at all different levels of their psychic awareness development, from just starting and figuring it out to having it and being comfortable with it. And across the board, I'm hearing a lot of people talking about waves of dizziness that can be absolutely debilitating. And they're curious what that is and how they can get through it, because some of them are just really struggling with this. And I know I went through a phase of that. And even during the show, I had a wave of dizziness happen. So can you have them address
I can answer that, yes. We're actually going through a conscious energy wave at the moment. Our vibrational frequency is being raised as a species, as a planet. And those that are sensitive to these vibrational frequencies have the feeling of dizziness, feeling of confusion, feeling of tiredness. All I would suggest is, I wouldn't say relax, open your mind, but just relax. And I would say just relax, meditate, and work your way through it, because the vibrational frequencies are being increased, and that's why they feel, because they're particularly susceptible, because they are psychic, that's what's causing it. And I've heard this from many. I mean, I can feel these waves coming in, and but I'm okay with them, you know. So but it's all right for me, because I understand them, but I can understand the confusion, especially if you're just really opening up to your psychic abilities, and then understanding them. And then the more you understand them, you can be confident in using them. for communication, whether with deceased family members or ETs or higher conscious beings or guides or whatever you want to call them. So, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, the way I described it to someone was, it feels like, the compass that is on a boat that can move in all directions, right? And it's always balancing itself out, and
Yeah,
it just feels like it's rocking within you.
right. Okay.
And then
Yeah, that would be a good description, I think, because it does knock you off your feet. If and that's why people get tired and get confused and things. Yeah, so that's a very good analogy.
Yeah, and just my way of dealing with it was to imagine that and imagine it flattening out.
Oh, okay.
And stopping
Right.
the waving to try and counter.
Yeah,
So,
I find it's very relaxing. I have a chair outside under a very large sycamore tree. And if I want to relax, if I'm feeling stressed or not too much going on or whatever, not that it happens very often, but I go and sit in that chair. I take my dogs out and I just sit. I relax and I watch the nature around us, the butterflies, the dragonflies, the ants, all the other insects, the birds, everything, that's the trees, the plants. And that takes me to a place where I can relax and share the energy that's around me in the plants, in the butterflies, the dragonflies. And that's how I deal with it. Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful. Okay, I have some other questions here. One of them is that Crystal said that she had contact with a long ship that had fire coming out the back. How can she get them to come back again?
Okay. Well, all she needs to, I don't know where she saw them or when or what the circumstances were, but obviously you're probably all aware of the CE5 protocols, where you can go outside, you can relax, open your mind, and ask them, put the information out there to show themselves and put out the love that's there, and they will come and show themselves. And they may not do it the first time or the second time, but just go out there and relax and ask. I mean, I still do that now. I haven't seen a craft for a while, and I said to my wife Sandy, I said, let's see if there's anybody about, see if they'll show us as a craft. So we put the information out there, and then a craft appeared at the bottom end of the, just as a light, bottom end of the pasture, and then it jumped, came halfway up the pasture, and then right up to the pool cage, and then it shot off and disappeared. We did the same again a couple of nights later. Another one came, it came to the middle. So if you ask and you just share that love, they don't always come when you ask, but the more you do it and the more they're comfortable with you, then, so my advice to her was just relax, go outside and ask, and even think about it during the day. That's why I do. I think, I'll ask if they'll show us a craft tonight, just to make sure they're still there. And I think after lunch, about 6 o'clock, I'll go out and ask them. So I'm preparing it. I'm creating it, shall we say, by thinking about it, by thought, by consciousness. So she can do all those things, and that will help them to show themselves. And they do want to show themselves, but they don't want to frighten us. It wants to be a gradual thing, depending where you are in your own particular journey.
Okay. And for the Council of Eight, what's the most important thing that they want us humans to know? What are we not getting?
What do we need to know? Well, we need to learn to take care of our planet. That's one of their biggest concerns. They're also concerned about the nuclear weapons. Again, with the link to the planet, if we use the nuclear weapons, not only do they destroy us, they destroy the planet as well. And I'm sure we're all aware here that the planet is conscious, it's a living being, just as the trees, the plants, the insects, the elementals, we all share that consciousness. So, and really what they want for us now, they're here to elevate our understanding of consciousness itself and shared consciousness, even to the fact that all these living beings at the different levels have conscious energy, but so does the rock. And they've explained to me what conscious energy is and where it exists. So when I think of a lump of rock, I know when I learned this from them, how can a rock be conscious? It's just solid, it doesn't do anything. But it's conscious at the quantum level, between the subatomic particles in the space there as light, as photons. That's conscious energy. So it can be in a rock, because the rock has atoms, it has photons, it has space between at the quantum level, and that's where conscious energy is. And that's how we're able to access conscious energy and use it for the things that I use it for. So once we all learn that as a species, then we'll work harder towards protecting the planet. And they have told me that they will share technologies with us in relation to, they're particularly concerned about Fukushima at the moment. It's still polluting the Pacific. It's come all the way across now to the American coast. And they have technologies that they will share that will help clean the waste up that's still polluting our planet to a tremendous degree. So really, I suppose the answer to the question is they're here to educate us about consciousness, to help us evolve to those higher levels and help sustain the planet because really our planet is our spaceship traveling through space. It's just a biological spaceship. We are biological in the third dimension. So I look at it as a spacecraft that's self-supporting, where it was until we start to destroy it. And so those are the two or three main things that they've spoken to me about.
One of the things that that brings to mind for me is, if we really screw it up, are they going to try and help us to stop screwing it up, or are we just SOL?
They've told me they will only intervene if we use nuclear weapons again, and then they will intervene. They won't in any other circumstances. But we are moving towards this co-creating, and that's the important part, with the shared consciousness to create that new reality. And they are assisting with that. It might be difficult for people to grasp that, but that's where we are working, that's where we are heading towards. But we have to elevate our level of understanding of consciousness and the planet and the ETs, and then we together will co-create that future. So they are helping us, they are.
I want to ask a question.
I have one more.
Okay.
Oh,
No,
last one I have is, are you aware of the Pontee?
Oh, good question.
Have you had any experiences with them?
Just say that again, and you have to spell it for me.
PN''TI.
Yes, I have. I just wanted to make sure that you got the spelling correct. Yes. Do you want me to tell you what connection?
Sure.
Okay. The very little. It wasn't until, when was it? I went on somebody was doing a talk, and they spoke about this particular, I don't even know how you pronounce them. They spoke about this particular species of ETs that are here, that live in our planet, underground. They even gave the exact area. I can't remember where it was now.
Sandia Mountains.
Pardon?
Sandia Mountains.
Okay, that was it. Yes, and they had a website. So I went onto the website, and they had pictures there of the particular species, and I thought it was just fascinating. I read the information, but then the following day I was relaxing, meditating, opening my mind, and two of these species came and spoke to me. And when I checked back on the website, I can't remember the names now, but there was two on the website with the photographs, with the names, who were the leaders of that particular group, I believe. So yes, I am aware of them, but I don't have any direct contact other than that one on that particular day. But I know this, I get so much information. I write a lot of it down because I forget. But if you, I'm sure if you put that name in and look for a website, you'll find it, and all the information is there, and it's fascinating, really. So,
yeah, and we've had Sue Walker on multiple times, and we've talked about the Pontee. We love the Pontee.
Okay.
Jillian, hop in with your question.
No, I was just going to say, I have a picture of the Pontee that Sue
made.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, that's them. Yeah. Yes. And it was fascinating how I've been thinking about it. And then these two appeared, and they were just interested in the fact that I got such a ability for communication, and they wanted to know why, and they came to see my interest and whatever, because I've been on the website and they probably knew that. But then to have the vision of them and go on the site and see the names of those two that came to me, I'm telling you, a fascinating experience, really. And I'm sure there might be many others here that, you know, live underground somewhere. I remember Ananda Bosman telling me, I think he was brought up in the Swiss Alps somewhere, and his mother was an artist, and she used to go up into the mountains when he was a kid, and then she'd be painting, and he'd wander off, and an ET would come up and take him into a mountain city underground, and he did that in his childhood. I mean, just fascinating, really. Again, so there are probably many cultures underground that we're not aware of, where we are terrestrial at the moment. You know, but I think this planet is shared, and our solar system and the other planets are shared by other species. The fact that we don't see them above ground doesn't mean that they're not there.
Yeah, and the Ponti are in the mountains of Sandia, and they're in other places. There's some actually in Colorado Springs as well, not too far from here, but they've got satellite stations kind of around the planet. But I love that you had an experience with the Ponti. That's so fascinating. And then I wanted to ask you if you can ask your Council of Eight, when does the golden age start? Because I know that, you know, we're in this turmoil, and I feel like we're just at the beginning stages of the turmoil, honestly. And do they have a timeline for how things are going to go? Do they offer a timeline, or are they just like, nope, that's up to you. It could go this way, it could go that way. What do they say about it?
I have asked them that question. I asked them. They were trying to communicate with connect with our governments a couple of years ago, and they asked me to ask to see if we had a mandate protocol in place to receive them. And they asked me to contact the United Nations. So I contacted the office of Nicholas Hedman at that time. He was the chairman of the Outer Space Affairs Committee, and he did reply saying there was no mandate protocol to receive advanced extraterrestrials should they wish to communicate with us. So I asked him how we would do that, and he said that we'd have to get a member state to make that mandate proposal, and it would be voted on. So in light of that, I got in touch with Nikki Haley, the ambassador to the UN at that time, and I didn't receive a reply. So then I was asked to write to the White House. I wrote to the White House in relation to the same request. I know they received it. I didn't get a reply. And then sometime after that, I was asked again to write to the UN in relation to the same subject, outlining the fact that they want to meet with our government representative, but they needed this mandated protocol implemented to receive them. So I wrote a second time, and on this occasion I wrote to the chairman of the Outer Space Affairs Committee, Nicholas Hedman, but I also wrote to Dr. DePippo in Washington, D.C., another station of the UN. But what was interesting about that, Dr. DePippo, what's his name, Nicholas Hedman, he didn't respond this time. He just sent me a response to say he received the email. And I didn't receive any response from Dr. DePippo. But 10 days after I'd written to him, I was contacted by Terry Lovelace. Terry Lovelace is a retired assistant attorney general for 2 jurisdictions. He's a retired law professor. He is also a lifelong experiencer, and I met Terry at a conference once. And he was given the same information by his ET guides about wanting to meet with the. So I told him I'd written the emails to the UN, both in Vienna and Washington, D.C. And he said, well, I know Dr. DePippo. I will send him an email supporting what you're saying because I've been given the same information. So he did 10 days later. He contacted me 9 days after. I've got all the emails and all the dates written down somewhere. And so he did. But neither of us got a reply because obviously not wanting to do it yet. I was also asked to write to the White House again, which I did. And then
How does this connect into like the golden age when that starts,
Oh,
though?
well, I'm just getting to that.
Okay.
Okay. So they were wanting to do that last year sometime. I've got the dates. They gave me a specific date to have the meeting with the UN, with our government, with the Council of Eight. We weren't able to organise it. So now what they're saying is we are still moving towards the golden years for humanity,
Mhm.
and it will happen within a short period of time. Soon, they say. Soon. No.
Okay.
They won't give me a specific date, but
5 years, 30 years,
no,
100 years.
I don't think it's going to be that long.
Okay.
Say,
Ask them. What do they say right now? Do they give me years right now? Open your mind, as you do so well.
What the information they give me is, Kevin, be patient. So I will convey that information to you, Kat. Be patient. That's all you need to do.
How many years? I want months.
A month, a day, an hour, and a second. I think it's going to be soon, because I'm working on something now that there's going to be a conference next year. I haven't spoken to Neil Gower about this. I don't think he knows me, but he's going to organize a conference in Colorado next year. I think San Francisco. Sorry, San Francisco. Oh. I don't know. It's California. Somewhere in California, anyway. And but I suggest what we can do there, if we can get all the leading experiences there who have their own contacts, can we not implement our own mandate protocol from the people to invite the ETs? We all have direct contact with them anyway. Why don't we do that? That way we could do it. It would come from the people. And that would answer your question. That would be next year in 2022. Look at those numbers again. 222, a universal number. So that's what I'm going to work towards. If I can encourage other people, and I know I've met a lot of or some of them, the leaders of these different groups, like Customer Crease with the ET Let's Talk, Rebecca Hardcastle-Wright, obviously Stephen Greer with his Disclosure Project, Mark Sims. I mean, his story is amazing. And there's many out there. If all of us get, and I know that I can ask them to show a craft, because I've done that with myself, with Ananda Bosman and Dave Cottrell, and done that. They show up here. I've been trying to get them landed here at the back of my house, but they're not doing that yet. But if we plan and co-create that, I'm going to put this forward to Neil Gower, because he's organising the conference, and I think obviously Mark Sims will be there. And these are the leaders of the movements. If we can all come together, we can co-create that next year in 222. And I just mentioned 222 there. Kathy Barden wrote a book. I forgot what it's called now, and about abduction and contact. And she mentioned me in the book. And when I read it, it was on page 222. I mean, I said to her, did you put that on that page on purpose? She said, oh, no. She said, I sent it out to the publishers, and it just came back on page 222. So we have these synchronicities in relation to what's happening. So I'm not going to stick my neck out, Kat, and give you a time date in a second. I'm going to say what I'm working towards and what I'm hoping to achieve.
Well, and I think that's great, because it puts the ball back in our lap. It's like, well, Kat, when would you like the golden age to start? What would you like to do about the golden age? And it puts it more on me, as opposed to the passive position, which I think so many of us fall into. Certainly I can fall into that myself, of like, when's it going to be over? But at the same time, this is an exciting time to be a conduit to make it, to get it over with. Like, we are the conduits to end it.
Yeah.
And it's on us.
They want it coming from the people.
Yeah.
They are assisted. So if we, the people, decide to ask them, we implement our own mandated protocol to receive them so they're safe. And I think the people that here that are working on this, like Mark Sims, Neil Gower, many other, Dr. Rebecca Hardcastle-Wright, Ray Hernandez, Mary Rodwell, there are many. These are the earthly ambassadors. So we, as earthly ambassadors, can invite their ambassadors, and we can implement our own mandated protocol. So I'm going to work on this and see what happens. I think Gillian wants to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that I feel like it's gonna, you know, it's up to us when we want this to all be said and done. But I had a regression, a QHHT regression in 2018 that brought up a lot of this stuff. Like when, you know, can I get a time or a date? Like when is this going to happen? And I got the exact same thing, and it soon. Like it's not often that people are getting these time frames, because you know, and even if something big happened and we did get a time frame and something doesn't happen within that time frame, that really throws a wrench into, you know, the people who are believing that something is going to happen within this specific time frame. And if it doesn't, like it can be damaging on a soul evolutionary level. It can kind of block off, you know, because you're so heightened, like you're ready for it to happen, and you just believe it with every fiber of your being, and you're telling people that this is going to happen, and then all of a sudden it doesn't. It's like deflating a balloon. And I feel personally,
I would agree entirely, Gillian. Yeah, then you feel deflated, and then when everybody, you know, there's always dates portrayed, and then nothing happens. So they're obviously trying it a different way this time. But as I say, I mean, it's a great opportunity, because I join many of these groups and I listen to what they've got to say, and I see the people. I mean, Mark Sims' story is tremendous. Ray and Andy's story is tremendous. Mary Rodwell's been working on it for decades. And, you know, Kathy Marden's been working on it for decades. If all those people can come together, and what I could do, if I win this competition, the prize money for the competition is $500,000. I can use that money to get these people under one roof at one time, and we can all ask together, and we can pre-organize that. And that's where would be a good use for the money. So again, I'm trying to co-create the winning of this competition. So I have that $500,000 to help facilitate the reveal. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's in what beautiful donation to the golden age. Like you really are living your mission to make the golden age happen.
It's quite fascinating that I saw the competition and I wasn't interested. And then my two Orton D asked me to enter. So I looked at the site, and this was about 3 or 4 days before the deadline. I looked at the site and I thought, I'm a bit out of my depth there. So I said to my wife, I think I'm going to enter this competition. So there's a website. And she went on. She came off and says, Kevin, she says, I think you're out of your depth there. So I said, well, okay. But I said, Orton have asked me to enter the competition. You've got to make an application. So if I'm meant to enter the competition, then okay, I'll enter it. And if I'm meant to enter it, they'll say yes to the application or no. And a day later, it came back saying your application has been accepted. So I'm now in the competition.
Oh.
So in fact, I've just about finished writing the essay. It has to be submitted by August 1st, and then the winner is decided by November the 1st. So we'll see where that transpires. And because we are able to co-create using thought and consciousness, I was told by two people just recently. One who went to a conference with Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I was telling her about the competition, and she said, Kevin, you need to write it down on a post-it and put it on your computer so you'll see it every day in front of you. And it says, coming first in an essay competition, winning the prize money, I will feel happy, jubilant, grateful, accomplished, and share with my friends. So I see that, and I'm trying to co-create that win so we can co-create the next step. And part of my mission is to help facilitate the reveal. So that's what I'm working on. And there's no guarantees to any of this, but it's all new for everybody that's working towards it. But, and then a couple of days after that, when Faith gave me that information, someone else gave me the exact same information. So that's information coming towards me to speak about winning the essay, and then what I'm going to do with the money in relation to helping to facilitate. Because some people may not be able to afford to go at that particular time in their work schedule or whatever, But with this extra money, I can contribute towards that to get everybody there that wants to be there in relation to then asking for the ETs to reveal themselves in the physical, and we can start the ball rolling. And then if the government want to join in with us, they're quite welcome. They know they're here. They've been interacting with them themselves, I'm sure, for decades. So, you know, they know that they're here. So we'll see what happens. And
well, that's amazing. You've just got such a huge heart. One last quick question, try to make it a quick question because we are hitting the top of the hour. I wanted to know, what was that future incarnation for you? What did you do for your future incarnation?
They just showed me, I was on a vacation. I was in my 20s, early 20s, with a group of friends, all male. I don't know whether it was a stag do or what, but and we were in Brazil at a big festival there. And at the front of the festival, there was this gorgeous woman dressed in a very skimpy outfit. And I just sort of, I thought, wow, an amazing, beautiful woman. I'd love to meet her. And then I did meet her. We struck up a relationship, as it were. But further down the relationship, I realized it was a reincarnation of Sandy, my wife. So we were meeting again in another incarnation. So, and they've shown me that. I'm not quite sure why. I think, obviously, I don't have a fear of death because I've got 2 memories of previous deaths, but they were violent deaths. I think that's why I remember them. But I think they've shown me that as evidence of my future incarnation, and the fact that humanity is continuing. They're still having those celebrations in Brazil in the future when I will be there as a young 20-year-old. So I think that's why they did that. It's all part of the education and again, boosting the confidence up in relation to talking about things. So again, that makes me very happy. I know I'm losing friends now because they're getting older as I am. But you know, I know that they move on and they can be reincarnated if they choose to. But that soul journey, I think, is very important, and we learn on that journey. And I've met other people who have met their souls in the past, and they both recognise one another. And I've met other people who only one part of the couple remembers the past soul person. So I know it does happen, but my wife will read about this in this essay, so I don't know whether she wants to spend another 40 years with me or not. I'm not certain. I'll soon find out. I'll let you know.
This is part 2 to be continued. Well, I want to thank you, Kevin, so much for coming on to the show, and it's just been a delight to have you here. We're just going to call you Uncle Kevin from now on. And you just have such great energy, such a big, beautiful, generous heart, and I can understand why the ETs just love hanging out with you and just cluster around you with all of that love energy you've got flowing. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone remembers that Kevin's got his link below in our description box. Do you have anything to, and I didn't ask you this earlier, did you have anything to promote or anything coming up that you wanted to let us know that you're speaking at, Kevin?
No, not at the moment. If anybody's got any further questions, they can contact me through my email is kevinjamesbriggs@gmail.com. Quite straightforward. So it's just my name, kevinjamesbriggs@gmail.com. Send me an email. I'll answer your questions. My website is kevinjbriggs.com. And I just want to thank Linda and Gillian and yourself for inviting me on your show. I've enjoyed it. And as I said at the beginning of the show, without you asking me here, you're helping me share that information, and we all have that small piece of the jigsaw, and it helps us to get that end goal where we all want to be. So again, exciting times ahead, and if I get a date for you, Kat, I'll let you know.
And we've collectively decided that if you win that prize, when you win that prize, that we're all volunteering to be on that list.
Aww.
I don't even have to ask anybody.
That sounds like a plan. I'll have to make a list of see how many people it will afford to attend. So we'll wait and see.
I'll crawl to it.
Oh,
We'll get you there, Linda. You'll fly like the goddess you are. So yeah, everyone, we've got our links down below. Go ahead, join our Facebook group. If you're on Facebook, we also have a Facebook event page. Give us some love with buying us a virtual coffee. Thank you for all of your donations. And I guess that is it. It's hard to end the conversation. Thank you, everyone. We love you. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Linda. Thank you to everyone on the. Yeah,
Bye,
absolutely.
everybody.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. We'll see you
Bye, everyone.
next
Thank you.
week.